She walked past the admirals. She walked past the diplomats in their pristine uniforms, past the xenobiologists who had spent decades studying her species, past the security detail with their hands hovering near weapons they'd never dare use in this room. The Velorian princess, no older than 4 in human years, ignored every single one of them, and sat next to me. I was a maintenance technician. I'd only been allowed in the reception hall because someone needed to fix the climate control unit before the Velorian delegation arrived, and I hadn't finished in time. I was supposed to be invisible, crouched behind a decorative pillar with my toolkit, waiting for the ceremony to end so I could slip out unnoticed. The child's mother, Queen Seraphis, ruler of the Velorian Dominion, a being whose single word could launch 1,000 warships, stood frozen at the entrance. Her luminescent skin, pale blue like glacial ice, flickered with colors I'd learned meant confusion. Shock. Perhaps anger. Lyris, the queen said, her voice harmonic, layered with undertones that made my chest vibrate. Come here. The little girl, Lyris, looked up at me with eyes like captured galaxies, swirling with silver and violet. Then she did something that made every diplomat in the room hold their breath. She grabbed my hand. No, she said simply. I stay. I'd never felt so terrified in my life. I'd also never felt such small, warm fingers wrapped around my calloused palm. Her hand had too many joints. Her skin was cool and smooth like polished stone, but the gesture was universal. Trust. I'm sorry, I whispered, not sure if I was apologizing to the child or her mother, or the entire political apparatus of 2 civilizations. I'm not anyone important. I fix air conditioners. Lyris tilted her head, her silver hair cascading like liquid mercury. You smell like home. Queen's eyes, 4 of them arranged in a diamond pattern, narrowed. She moved through the crowd, which parted like water before a blade. Up close she was terrifying. 8 feet tall, elegant in a way that made human beauty seem crude, and radiating an authority that pressed against my skin like atmospheric pressure. What have you done to my daughter? She demanded. Nothing. I swear I gestured helplessly at my toolkit. The humidity settings were off. Your species needs 40% higher than standard, and the system was. He made the air right, Lyris interrupted. He made it so I could breathe easy. Nobody else noticed I was struggling. He did. Queen's colors shifted again. I didn't read them, but something in her posture changed. The accusation faded, replaced by something more complex. You noticed my daughter's discomfort, she said slowly. Before we even arrived. The briefing said Velorian children are more sensitive to environmental conditions than adults. I just wanted to make sure she'd be comfortable. I shrugged awkwardly. Kids shouldn't have to suffer through boring diplomatic stuff and bad air. Lyris tugged my hand. See, Mother? He thinks about small ones. Not just big important things. Queen studied me for a long moment. Around us, the diplomats were having silent panic attacks, their carefully planned first contact scenario crumbling in real time. What is your name? The Queen asked. Marcus Chen. I'm really nobody, Your Majesty. Just a tech. Marcus Chen, she repeated. And my name sounded strange in her harmonic voice, like a chord played on an alien instrument. It seems my daughter has chosen you. Chosen me for what? The Queen's expression was unreadable. That remains to be seen. Lyris smiled up at me, and despite everything, the terror, the confusion, the absolute certainty that my life had just become incredibly complicated, I found myself smiling back. 3 days later, I was still chosen, though nobody could explain what that meant. The diplomats had tried to separate us. Lyris had screamed, a sound that shattered glass and made 3 people's noses bleed. These xenobiologists had explained with barely concealed panic that Velorian children who formed recognition bonds could not be forcibly parted from their chosen without severe psychological trauma. So now I had a shadow. A small alien shadow who followed me through maintenance tunnels and watched with fascination as I repaired broken systems. Why does that make light? Lyris asked, pointing at my welding torch. It's plasma. Super hot gas. It melts metal so I can stick pieces together. Can I try? Absolutely not. You'd burn your fingers off. I don't think I would. My skin is very strong. Still no. She pouted, a surprisingly human expression on her alien face. You're like Mother, always saying no. Your mother says no because she loves you and wants to keep you safe. Same reason I'm saying no. Lyris considered this. So you love me? I paused mid-weld. The question was asked with such innocent directness that it caught me completely off guard. I care about you, I said carefully. I didn't want you to get hurt. That's what love is, Lyris said matter-of-factly. Mother says love is wanting someone to be safe and happy even when it's hard. I didn't have a response to that. The Queen found us an hour later, in the station's hydroponics bay. I was showing Lyris how tomatoes grew, and she was utterly captivated by the concept of plants you could eat. We don't have these, she said, gently touching a red tomato. Our food is different? Synthesized? I guessed. Grown in vats. Efficient, nutritious. She wrinkled her nose. Boring. Lyris, the Queen's voice came from behind us. You missed your language lessons. I was learning. Lyris protested. Marcus taught me about photosynthesis and cellular respiration, and why humans need oxygen. But we don't need as much. Queen's gaze shifted to me. In the 3 days since the reception, I'd learned to read some of her color shifts. Right now she was surprised. Possibly impressed. You taught her biology? She asked questions. I answered them. I shrugged. Kids are curious. It's how they learn. Our educators use structured programs. Approved curricula. They do not improvise. Yeah, well, I'm not an educator. I'm just a guy who knows some stuff and doesn't mind sharing. The Queen moved closer and I tried not to flinch. She was examining me like I was a puzzle she couldn't solve. You are strange, Marcus Chen. I've been told. My daughter has not willingly engaged with learning since her father died. Queen's voice was quieter now and I heard something beneath the harmonics. Pain d'toire. Old and deep. She refused tutors. Rejected programs. Yet, she listens to you. I looked at Lyris, who was now trying to convince a tomato plant to give her its fruit through sheer force of will. Maybe she just needed someone who wasn't trying to teach her, I said. Sometimes kids learn better when they don't realize they're learning. The Queen was silent for a long moment. Then she did something unexpected. She sat down. Not on a chair, there weren't any, but on the floor, her elegant robes pooling around her like spilled starlight. She sat across from me, bringing herself closer to my eye level, and the gesture felt significant in a way I couldn't articulate. Tell me about yourself, Marcus Chen, not your job, you. So I did. I told her about growing up on a mining colony, about my mother who taught me to fix things and my father who taught me to notice people. I told her about losing them both to a reactor accident when I was 16, about bouncing through foster systems and odd jobs until I found my way to this station. You were alone, she said when I finished. A child, alone, for a while. But people helped. Strangers mostly. People who didn't have to care but did anyway. I smiled slightly. That's kind of a human thing. We adopt people. Not just kids. Anyone who needs family. We just collect each other. Collect, she repeated, tasting the word. Yeah. Like how Lyris collected me, I guess. Queen's colors shifted to something warm, something I hadn't seen before. Perhaps she did. Lyris chose that moment to return, triumphantly holding a tomato she'd somehow managed to pick. Look, I harvested. That's great, little star, I said, the nickname slipping out before I could stop it. Lyris beamed. Queen's eyes widened slightly. What did you call her? Sorry, I didn't mean to. No. Queen held up a hand. Lyris. In our language. It means little star. You could not have known this. I looked at the child, at her swirling galaxy eyes, and her silver hair, and the way she glowed faintly in the dim hydroponics lighting. I guess it just fit, I said. The Queen stared at me for a long moment. Then she rose gracefully, took her daughter's hand, and paused at the door. You will join us for dinner tonight, Marcus Chen. That is not a request. She left before I could respond. Lyris looked back at me and winked, definitely a gesture she'd learned from humans, before disappearing after her mother. I stood alone in the hydroponics bay, surrounded by tomatoes, wondering how my life had gotten so complicated. The assassination attempt came 6 days later. I wasn't supposed to be there. I was supposed to be repairing a faulty airlock on the station's far side. But Lyris had asked me to come to her quarters to see a drawing she'd made, and I'd learned that saying no to her was nearly impossible. The drawing was of 3 figures. One tall and blue, one smaller and blue, and one medium-sized and brown. That's us, Lyris said proudly. Family. I didn't have time to process the implications of that word because that's when the wall exploded. The blast threw me backward. My ears rang. Through the smoke, I saw figures in black armor pouring through the breach, human figures I realized with sick horror. Terror, extremists. The kind who thought alien contact was contamination. Lyris screamed. I moved without thinking. I grabbed her, shielded her with my body, and ran. Behind us I heard weapons fire and the Queen's voice raised in fury. Harmonics turned to something that sounded like thunder. Marcus! Lyris cried. Mother, she's fighting. She's strong. We need to get you safe. I knew this station like I knew my own heartbeat. Every maintenance tunnel, every shortcut, every hidden space. I carried Lyris through passages that weren't on any official map, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might burst. I'm scared, Lyris whispered. I know, little star. I know. But I've got you. I won't let anyone hurt you. Promise? Promise. We emerged in the reactor core monitoring room, a place only maintenance staff could access, shielded and secure. I sealed the door, activated the emergency lockdown, and finally allowed myself to breathe. Lyris was shaking. Held her close, her cool skin against my chest, her too many jointed fingers clutching my shirt. Why do they hate us? She asked. We didn't do anything wrong. Some people are afraid of things they don't understand. Fear makes people do terrible things. Are you afraid of us? I looked down at her, at this alien child who had chosen me for reasons I still didn't fully understand, who had somehow become the most important person in my life. No, I said. I'm not afraid of you. I'm afraid for you. There's a difference. What's the difference? Being afraid of someone means you want to run away from them. Being afraid for someone means you want to protect them. I smoothed her silver hair. I want to protect you, Lyris. You and your mother. That's all I want. She was quiet for a moment. Then, Father used to say that he wanted to protect us. He sounds like he was a good person. He was. But he's gone now. She looked up at me with those galaxy eyes. You're not gone. No. I'm right here. Will you stay? The question hit me harder than the explosion had, because I realized, in that moment, that I wanted to. More than I'd ever wanted anything. Yeah, I said. My voice rough. I'll stay. The door shuddered. Someone was trying to get through. Hush. Lyris behind me grabbed a heavy wrench, the only weapon available, and prepared to fight. The door burst open. Queen Serapha stood in the doorway, her robes torn, her luminescent skin flickering with colors I'd never seen, rage and fear and something desperate. Behind her, the bodies of attackers lay crumpled. Lyris. She rushed forward, gathering her daughter in her arms. Are you hurt? Are you... Marcus saved me, Lyris said. He carried me and hid me and promised to protect me. The queen looked at me over her daughter's head. Her eyes were wet. I hadn't known Velorians could cry. You saved her. I did what anyone would do. No. She shook her head. You did what her father would have done. What I could not do because I was fighting. You chose her safety over your own. She's a kid. Of course I did. She is not your child. She is not your species. She is not your responsibility. And yet you nearly died for her. I didn't know what to say to that. So I said the only thing that felt true. She's Lyris. That's enough. The queen made a sound. Something between a laugh and a sob. She reached out with one hand and touched my face, her cool fingers tracing my cheek. Marcus Chen, she said softly. What am I supposed to do with you? I don't know, I admitted. But whatever it is, I'm not going anywhere. The aftermath was chaos. Investigations, arrests, diplomatic incidents. The extremists were caught, their network dismantled. The alliance between humans and Velorians, rather than being damaged, grew stronger, united against a common enemy. Through it all, I stayed. Not because anyone ordered me to. Not because of politics or duty or obligation. I stayed because every morning, Lyris would find me and drag me to breakfast. I stayed because the queen had started asking my opinion on things. Small things at first, then larger ones. I stayed because somewhere along the way this had become home. 1 month after the attack, the queen summoned me to her private quarters. I'd been there before, for dinners and conversations and evenings spent watching Lyris play. But this felt different. Queen was alone, standing by a window that looked out at the stars. Marcus, thank you for coming, you asked. I came. I shrugged. That's how it works. She turned to face me and I was struck again by how beautiful she was. Not human beautiful, something else entirely. Something that made my chest ache in ways I didn't fully understand. I need to return to my homeworld, she said. Council requires my presence. There are matters that cannot be handled remotely. Oh. The word felt hollow. How long indefinitely? Perhaps permanently. She paused. I am asking you to come with us. I stared at her. What? Lyris needs you? She has flourished since you entered her life. Her tutors report unprecedented progress. Her nightmares have stopped. She laughs again. Queen's voice softened. I cannot take that from her. I will not. So you want me to come as... what? A nanny? A tutor. I want you to come as family. The word hung in the air between us. Seraphis. It was the first time I'd used her name. It felt intimate. Dangerous. Right. I know this is sudden. I know we are different species, different cultures, different everything. But my daughter chose you, Marcus. And I have learned to trust her judgment. She stepped closer. I have also learned to trust my own. What does that mean? It means that when I look at you, I do not see a human. I see the man who fixed the air so my daughter could breathe. The man who taught her about tomatoes and stars and why the universe is worth exploring. The man who threw himself between her and death without hesitation. Her hand found mine. I see someone I want in my life. In our life. Seraphis, I'm nobody. I'm a maintenance tech from a mining colony. I have nothing to offer a queen. You have everything to offer. Her other hand touched my chest over my heart. You have this capacity for love that humans possess. This ability to care for anyone, to make family from strangers. To find connection where others see only difference. She smiled, and it transformed her face. You have already given us more than you know. I don't know how to be a father, I admitted. I don't know how to be... Whatever you're asking me to be? Neither did I know how to be a mother until Lyris was born. Neither did I know how to be a queen until the crown was placed on my head. She squeezed my hand. We learn, Marcus. We grow. We become what our loved ones need us to be. And what do you need me to be? Yourself. Only yourself. That is enough. That has always been enough. I thought about my life. The loneliness, the drifting, the sense that I was waiting for something without knowing what. I thought about Lyris and her galaxy eyes, about Seraphis and her harmonic voice, about the way they had both somehow become the center of my universe. Okay, I said. Okay, I'll come. I'll try. I can't promise I'll be good at it, but I'll try. Seraphis made that sound again, the laugh sob, Ban pulled me into an embrace. She was cool and tall and utterly alien, and she felt like home. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you for asking. The door burst open and Lyris tumbled in, clearly having been eavesdropping. You said yes. She launched herself at us, and suddenly I was in the middle of a group hug with an alien queen and her daughter. I knew you would. I knew it. You were listening, Seraphis said, but there was no anger in her voice. Of course I was listening. This is important. Lyris looked up at me. Does this mean you're my father now? The question should have terrified me. Instead, it felt like the most natural thing in the world. If you want me to be, I do. I chose you, remember? The first day. I knew you were supposed to be ours. How did you know? Lyris shrugged, a gesture she definitely learned from me. You smelled like home. You felt like safe. You looked at me like I mattered. She grinned. Also, you fixed the air. That was nice. I laughed. I couldn't help it. This strange, wonderful child had upended my entire existence because I'd adjusted a humidity setting. I love you, little star, I said. And the words came easily, naturally, like they'd been waiting to be spoken. I love you too, Marcus. She paused. Can I call you Dad? Yeah. You can call me Dad. Seraphis's arms tightened around us both. My family, she said softly. My strange, impossible, perfect family. Outside the window, the stars wheeled in their eternal dance. Somewhere out there was a planet I'd never seen, a culture I didn't understand, a future I couldn't predict. But here, in this moment, I'd had everything I needed. A daughter who had chosen me. A queen who had claimed me. A family that had nothing to do with blood and everything to do with love. And that, I realized, was the most human thing of all.